Live from writerssecrets.com, Dr. Jeffrey Lant.
Thank you, Patrice Porter, and welcome, my dear friends, students, fellow writers and editors across the globe. It's Christmas again, and I've made a point every Christmas, for as long as I can remember, to write a special article pertaining to the events at that time and what aspects of Christmas may be brought to bear to make the world a better place at any given time. This year is no exception. My article mirrors the troubles that we've had this year and the troubles with the president. So this is Christmas, 2015. Miracle at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Every time he promises victory over ISIS or any of its noxious tentacles, his credibility erodes further because we all know the next outrage and the outrage after that are already in the pipeline, no sign of victory brightening our grim horizon. Thus, one bloody deed follows another, while I have arrived at the stage where I hear next to nothing about how we're going to win a signal triumph and believe even less. It's just blah, blah, blah of the Jerry Seinfeld variety. He got $10 million per episode, keeping us laughing and distracted from the constant flow of new lamentations, dismay, and heartbreak. 1,000 words. Take a moment and peruse a photo taken at the White House just the other day. December 4th, hitting the world's breakfast tables the next morning. Groggy though I was when at 6 a.m. I saw it, I knew the sad importance of this affecting image, just how telling it was. The president was talking his usual smooth game in which he beats all, but the photo told a very different story. Here was the most powerful man on earth, the leader of the free and the brave, and he was lost, adrift in the conundrum that is world politics during his watch, where there are more questions than solutions, more every day, and more perplexing. We wake up to the news we now expect, news that no longer surprises us, of yet another bloodbath. Moreover, the number, whatever the number killed and wounded, we scarcely give the matter a moment's thought. For once one shot, now diluted by so much blood and pain, it's a shrug, a que sera, sera, and the fastest possible push outside remembrance, and the slightest notion we are in any way responsible. We know what had happened, would happen again and again, to our horror and distress. We are blasé, and hence play terror's desensitizing game, a game no one wins. The president, now an expert in prompt verbal response, will present himself to the nation and utter soothing words that will soothe no one, convicting words that will convince no one, and words of solution that will solve absolutely nothing. On one thing only will we agree, that we are relieved the murderous event has not taken place closer to our hearth and home. But the president cannot react with such nonchalance, because he's the inheritor of Harry Truman's immortal line. The buck stops here. The face he is showing to the world these days shows he understands that. He just doesn't know what to do next. This is his tragedy, and ours. I prophesy. It is 1:06 a.m. and I am about to exercise a poet's undoubted right to prophecy, not merely to explicate what has happened, but to predict what will happen. And please to note the verb tense, what will happen, not can, might, or could. For you see, I am a master of my craft, and necromancy my stock in trade, and so I give you the remarks President Obama will make after the next outrage, set in cement, unless. Pay close attention, for this is our shared destiny. Remarks upon the occasion of the next catastrophe. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, my fellow Earthlings. We meet this moment on a battlefield without end, in a war without victory, where soldiers resemble the school boards they so often do. unclear of who we are fighting, where we are located, and what they can do. These bold and unscrupulous adversaries recognize no boundaries, will stop at nothing and regard killing the innocent as nothing more than the cost of doing business. We stand for truth, fair play, decency, kindness, and the rule of law. But we fight a shadowy opponent for whom these verities mean nothing, absolutely nothing, and so we go to war against unprecedented menace, unable to use these tools on our own behalf, obstructing ourselves, pain and anguish, the certain result of our undoubted decency and high civic standards. Make no mistake about this. To the extent that we love peace is the extent we will fight you to achieve it and to keep it. We take up arms against you to secure peace, but we use these arms with zealous purpose and moral security. Moreover, as President John F. Kennedy said in his 1961 inaugural address, let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate. Your way is the way of certain destruction and death. Open your mind and see this truth, for the alternative is cataclysmic, an apocalypse of your own fashioning, which will cloud your dreams for 1,000 years. There is no honor in your course, and certain misery, prolonged and worst of all, unnecessary. The miracle we need. And then, right then, yes, it was a miracle. The speech stopped, and the Oval Office, used for only the most significant of her messages, was packed with good people of goodwill, wise people come from afar to advise the president and give him strength. Sir Winston Churchill, a great warrior in battle, a greater warrior for peace, stated his short, succinct words on the importance of talk, and the company repeated them as a chant. Jaw, jaw is better than war, war. Franklin Roosevelt held high a placard featuring these words from the early days of his Depression Challenge administration. The country needs, and unless I mistake its temper, the country demands bold, persistent experimentation. It is common sense. So you take a method and try it. If it fails, admit it frankly and try another one. But above all, try something. Lennon. He looked frail, a whisper of a man. That's John Lennon, circulated through the crowd. A celebrity amidst celebrities. As always, when he looked weak, his message was anything but. He asked to turn off the exterior lights for just a minute, the better to accentuate his message. However, the Secret Service disagreed. They drew their weapons, guns pointed in every direction. The inconceivable massacre in the White House was about to occur, pandemonium and indelible disgrace a moment away. And then just a flicker of light, and another after that, and for the first time since Pearl Harbor, all the lights at the front of the White House dimmed. That day of incipient war, the lights would dim for security. This day, Lenin urged they be dim for his urgent message of hope and a brand new day. It soon became obvious that there were hundreds of children in the dark holding candles, each a war victim, a war veteran, though there wasn't one of them over 15. Just for a moment, the world stopped and looked at the children and listened to their message, which soon came to be called the miracle at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Lenin's simple but profound words and images of peace and love were a tableau of the true meaning of Christmas, a festival of faith, light, and charity. So this is Christmas, and what have you done? Another year over, another one just begun. And so happy Christmas for black and for white, for the yellow and red ones, let's stop all the fights. Then two immaculately dressed men stepped up to the president. Each handed him a token, a memento. The military officer was General George C. Marshall, and he gave a document that simply said Marshall Plan. President Truman gave a document that said Truman Doctrine, and the buck stops here, paperboy with Truman's picture and give him hell motto. The president was nearly ready now. He sat at his desk, jotted just one or two notes, but not more. He was ready to move the world and wipe the sadness and chagrin from his expression. replacing them with something suitable for a leader of millions ready for their own rendezvous with destiny. The great and important of all earth had brought the necessary ingredients to this revival. Kennedy, a willingness to negotiate. Churchill, permission to keep on talking so long as there was any chance talking would deliver and sustain peace. Roosevelt said, begin now, and if you fail, experiment some more. While Marshall, my distant cousin for the nonce, delivered his unique plan that had saved war-ravaged Europe after World War II, and could again become the model for resurrecting the war-ravaged Middle East. And Harry Truman, he brought grit and can-do as American as apple pie and as necessary if the world is to change and flourish. The crowd was silent. The world was expectant. The moment had arrived. Happy Christmas, he said. War is over, he said. If you want it, he said. And so the White House was again what it must always be at Christmas Day and every day, the greatest symbol of hope for a struggling world. Envoy. I wish to take a moment to praise a fellow poet, for such moments of encomium must be grasped whenever possible. They are, after all, far too few. In a world where poets must struggle with all their heart and soul and vision to achieve even a moment in the light. John Lennon was such a poet, and as I recall his extraordinary career, where he played so many roles, his role as poet stands above the others. For he gave his planet just the words it needed to carry on at a time when carrying on seemed the most difficult thing to do. In 1971, he was focusing on Vietnam as all the sentient world was. What good could a mere poet or wordslinger render? Just this: that he helped keep the bitter dialogue focused on peace, always mankind's most elusive, most precious destination. When the song debuted, it didn't do very well. Lennon had left the Beatles years before, and he went from the most sophisticated marketing machine on earth to pokey handlers who didn't seem to know even the most well-known names need help. Thus the song, with its persistently relevant message, tanked, a message the world needed, left on the cutting room floor, to be found again in places like this, kept alive by the faithful. Little by little, as popularity grew, as more buffeted and storm-tossed people responded to its appeal. After all, we all have an interest in this message, don't we? This is why you should pass this simple tune and this article to the ones you truly care about. They deserve your concern and the melody and lyrics you can find in any search engine. Always the best present for this and every other holiday season. Best wishes from me and mine and all the folks here, Writer's Secrets. We wish you a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and the joys of peace.
Thank you, Dr. Lant, for that lovely message of hope. And may there be peace on earth and goodwill towards all mankind.